Hey, welcome back to the Match Him Experience. Today, I have two topics that I'm going to be going over with you guys, and it's two things that I've kind of, as my life has progressed, it's something that's come up in my life. And the two thoughts are number one, you do not always learn, and number two, total indoctrination, and that's it. So let's start with number one. You don't always learn. What does that mean? Well, one thought that I had about life, and it's a true thought if you think of it, and it's the fact that not everyone gets out of this thing that is life in enlightened, smarter way. There are people who go to the grave at the age of 70 years old, spent their whole life suffering, have a bunch of regret, and they die. It's not good. They're going to death's door, wishing that they weren't. What do we do about that? Well, what does that mean? I guess is the first thing. And for me, one thing you can take from that is not everybody gets out of life what they want. And some people, they do so bad, they actually go to death's door, with very many regrets, a lot of stuff left undone, a lot of things they wish they did, unenlightened, suffering, and that's that. That's life. Some people go to the end like that. Does it happen to everybody? No. But the fact that it does happen to some people, and quite honestly, it seems like a lot of people, that is a signal to me that I got to get my act together because it gives me a little bit of a visual of hell. What it will be like if I don't get my act together. Now, something interesting about this, and just going to relate it to something Jordan Peterson talks a lot about, and it's that we need a heaven that we're moving towards, but we also need a hell that's pushing us to go towards that heaven. And you can see this if you ever taken Jordan Peterson's self-authoring program. One of the things he does in the program, other than outline a great vision for you to move towards, is he outlines a great vision for you to move away from. You have to take some time. I think it was like write 6,000 words on what hell would be if you didn't take any action towards your goal, and what your life would look like if you didn't, take responsibility, if you didn't start gathering your life together and you kind of just kept going with the entropy. It gives you a little bit of perspective to think of the end in mind and to think of the fact that not everybody gets the good life. Puts a little bit of fear in your heart, wow, not everybody gets it. Do you want it? Surely, if there's one thing that you want, is to have a good life. Don't call me Shirley. The other thing that I wrote that I wanted to talk about was total indoctrination. Why do I want to talk about this? Because I've had a experience in the short-term future or short-term past of how this has actually been helping me, and I'll relate it to mindset for what it's been helping me with. But lately, I've been hanging out with friends every now and then. I haven't gone total hermit, but one thing that I have been doing is hanging out with friends a lot less, and spending a lot more time listening to a few thought leaders that I like quite a bit. And these people are, I've been listening to a lot of Gary Vee, David Goggins, and Jordan Peterson. I found from listening to these people so much more, and just having, it's almost as if they're the only people that are talking to me right now. My mindset, it's morphing. I'm becoming someone who is okay with failing now. They talk about how, Jordan talks about this in a great way, how moving towards your goal isn't about moving towards your goal. It's about blindly shooting towards your goal. And if you fuck up 90% of what you did on your pursuit to your goal, you still have that 10%, and then you do it again, maybe you get 11% next time, and so forth. Another thing, I've been a lot more willing to suffer. And one thing David Goggins talked about that I found very interesting he tells a story of how, he one time he wanted to raise money for charity, and the way he was going to do that was to run one of the hardest races of all time, and it was the Badwater 135, 135 miles through Death Valley. Well, he couldn't just run that race without qualifying, and to qualify he had to run 100 miles. Now the thing about David Goggins is this guy had never trained for something like this. He said in the year preceding he ran 50 miles total, and that year or that day he had to run 100 miles in one day. Well, he did it, and he didn't do it very lightly. He was suffering, this is one of the days that David Goggins claimed that he made it to the other side of suffering, where he pushed his body so far. But the thing I found most interesting about this kind of event wasn't that he overcame like the human limits and he ran 100 miles with no training. What I found most interesting was that one thing he said he was willing to die on that 100-mile track, and it was for no reason. He was willing to die. There was nobody watching. He didn't care. Nobody knew what he was doing. He was just some random guy running 100 miles on this track, and he was pushing himself to the limit where he was willing to die. And if you get to that point where you're willing to die for something, it's almost as if you're transcending death in a sense. So that's something that's been on my mind. I kind of want to explore that more. I went for a run the other day, and I pushed myself way harder, and one of the methods I used was telling myself that I'd be willing to die for this run for no reason. Now, I was nowhere near death's door. In truth, I'm using these kind of techniques to help myself stay in the fight longer so I can continue to build up my endurance to suffering. But yeah, that's that. Have a great day, guys, and thanks for listening. If you made it this far, though, leave a comment below. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. See you guys.